Alright, so now that we've got the basics down as far as tables and lists, I'd like to implement a project that will allow us to build on both elements. This is part of a project we created for this series. It's a web developer directory that we can build on through future projects. This particular page lists developers from certain states in a tabular layout. Not only that, but we have these lists on the side that we can create. Now we have this page done in the project files. If you want to go to chapter 1, section 3, project files, you'll see there's a folder with the done page, which is this page. And in the parts folder we have the page body, and then we have the tables. Now the page body is a setup for us to begin with. I'll open that right now. And this is the basic outline of the site. So we have our HTML tags, our head, our title tag, which is find a developer, closing head, body I added some style to. Actually, why don't we open this? Actually, you know what? First thing you want to do is copy all this. Copy everything. And then let's create a new file right here. So I'm going to new text document, and let's just call this, you know what, let's just call it index.html like we did on the last project. And then we'll open that up, and then we'll paste from the page body and then save. Now if we open that up, open it with a browser, just go to open with in whatever browser you use, and this is our page right here. So now we can work on this. So as I was saying, we have the body, we margined it out, we have a background color of blue, dark blue, color of white for the text, and the H1 is going to be our header, and the H1 is margined out, has 5 pixels of space. Background color is very dark gray, and color's white, and that's the H1 tag. Now what I have here is one thing I didn't explain in the last section was the comments. These are how comments are laid out in HTML. You have the less than sign, and then you have the exclamation, 2 dashes, and then you can write whatever you want in the comment section. And what I've done here is I have some div tags, and I like to label the start tag and the end tag, especially if we're not using IDs or classes. It's just a div tag. So this is going to be the main div. Let me just show you on the finished site. The main div is going to be everything in here, both the table column and the list. Then we have the left div, start. Everything in between here, these 2 divs, is going to be all this on the left, which is the tables. We have 2 tables. And then we have the right div, which is the lists. So what we'll do is we'll set the left div to a width, I think it's 500 or something like that, and then we have the right div, which will be, I think it's 200. And in the middle of the 2 lists we have an HR, which is a horizontal line. And you'll see all I have is comments. I just have comments in the place of where the tables and lists will go. So, and then the right div ends, and then the main div ends, and then that's the end of the document. So let's get started. So the first thing, the first thing that I want to do is add the actual content. We'll do the styling after. So just go here for a second. So first of all, the first thing that I see is the header. This Boston Developers, and that is an H4 header, I believe. Let me close this. That's an H4 heading. So I'm going to replace the comment that says heading with an H4 heading that says Boston Developers. In case you haven't noticed, I'm from Boston, from the Boston area. So the next thing we see So what I'd like to do first is to add the actual content and then add the styling. So we'll see, you can see right here we have a heading, which is this heading, Boston Developers. Then we have a table, Table 1. And then we have another heading, New Hampshire Developers. And we have another table. So that's what we're going to do first. Let's add the heading. Just replace the heading comment with the H4. Open and close. And then in the middle, Boston Developers. Okay, let's save that. Let's go to our document. Reload. Actually, you know what? See this line? This HR is going to get in the way until we actually do some styling, so I'm going to remove it. Save. Alright. So, I'm going to work on the new document, but I'm going to use the finished document as a reference. So now, you know what? Let's add both headings. So this will be New Hampshire Developers, and you'll see that you'll see that our headings here. Hold on, let me just save this. Reload. These headings are smaller, and they don't look like the final projects. That's because we haven't added any styling. So don't worry about that. It's not going to look right until we actually add the style, because the style is what makes the web page. Alright, so we have Table 1 and Table 2. Now, if you go into the parts folder, you'll find a file called tables.html. Let's open that up. And there's two tables here. We actually have the headings there too. We don't want to grab the headings, we just want the table. So let's just copy the first table, start tag to end tag, and replace the Table 1 comment. Now I'm going to explain the table syntax a little bit, because it's a little more than what we discussed earlier on the PowerPoint. So we have a opening table tag, and I have a border of 1. Actually, let me save this and show you. And this is what the table looks like. And it has a border of 1. Now, in the PowerPoint, I didn't explain that the head, body, footer tags of the table. We have a head tag, a T head tag, and then we have, just like any other row, we have TR, which is the row, but then we have the TH, which stands for table heading. If you're using a heading, you use TH instead of TD, and you'll see over here the heading is more prominent and it's centered, and that's default styling in Google Chrome. And you can also have a footer. And one thing that messes some people up sometimes is that if you have a footer, you have to add it right under the head. You can't add it at the bottom like you would think. So if we would have a footer, we would have to, let me just copy this so I can, we would have to have T foot right here, which can be extremely confusing, because you have, after the T head, you have the T body, and you would think that the foot would go under the body, but it doesn't. It has to go there. So I'll just save that, and we'll reload, and you'll see the footer is also styled like the header. So what I'd like to do now is add some content. We should add the content first and then the styling. So if we go to the page that we're creating, you'll actually see this long, ugly line across the screen. This is actually this line right here, this horizontal line. So I'm actually going to remove that for now. I'm just going to delete the HR tag and save, and now that line's gone. So let's start adding some content. And what I've done, as I said, everything's in comments, so I'm just going to replace the comments with the actual code. So you'll see the first thing we have is the heading. In this heading, I'm gonna transfer back and forth between these two pages, the finished one and the one we're working on, just so we can use this as a reference. So we have Boston Developers is the heading, and that's an H4 tag. So we're gonna replace the comment with the H4 tag, and in the middle we're gonna write Boston Developers, and save that. Reload. Now you'll see it's not the same size of the final page because we haven't added any style yet. So don't pay attention to anything like that because it's not going to look right until we add the style. And what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to add the next heading, which is another H4 tag, and it's New Hampshire Developers. Save that. We reload, we'll see that heading. Now I want to get the tables. Now what I've done is I've added the tables into a separate file so that you can grab it, because there's a lot of typing here. I'm not going to type out all of this. So I'm going to grab the, let's see, and it's in this folder, the parts folder. You'll see a file called tables.html. And I have table 1 is labeled with a comment, and then you scroll down and we have table 2. Table 1 is Boston, table 2 is New Hampshire. Alright, so now we're just going to grab the entire thing, copy it from the first table tag to the last one, and copy. And then we're going to paste that, and we're going to replace the comment that says table 1. And then we'll save, reload, and here you'll see the table. Now I've given this a border of 1 just so we can separate each cell, and we actually have something that wasn't on the PowerPoint, which is we're using a T-head tag and a T-body tag. And what the head does is makes the text of the heading more prominent, and it also centers the text on the Chrome browser. It's going to be similar no matter what browser you use, but that's if you want to use a heading. You don't have to. And then instead of the TD, the table data tags, we have the TH for table heading. And then if you're going to use a heading, then you're most likely going to use a body, so we have T-body next. And then we just wrap everything else in the T-body that's not in the heading. And this is all what we discussed in the PowerPoint: the table rows, table data, table cells, columns, sorry, whatever you want to call them. So that's the first table. Now let's go back and get the next table.